Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. We've gone through the entire main set of Wild Resurgence, but now we have the tournament pack cards to talk about and go over their potential competitive viability. However, the 5 we're going to talk about today are actually very special cases. They support really old decks. Like, I'm talking year 1 Dragon Ball decks, and we're in what, like year 5 or something like that? So pretty insanely far back legacy support, and some of it's actually pretty good. So we're going to go over that in today's video. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys do want to buy into the cards we talk about in today's video, or any trading cards for that matter, it does really help me out if you were to use my link in the description to TCG Player. I really do appreciate it, as always. Now let's get on into the first card, which is SS Kaaba, Student from Another Universe. We have a 2-drop 15k battle card. Auto, if your leader's backside is Saiyan Bond Vegeta and your opponent has 2 or more energy, during this turn you can activate your leader's Awaken even if your life is at 6 or less. So a couple things with this. We've seen cards like this before where they throw legacy support to an older leader that can't necessarily awaken super easily, so there's some sort of like 2-drop battle card that oftentimes, from what I remember, allowed you to awaken at 8 or less life, but this one in particular is 6 or less life, so you will have to take some damage, take some life on your own if you can. But now you might be wondering, what the heck is Saiyan Bond Vegeta? Well, this is from the highly coveted Tournament of Power set, which is a Warrior Universe 7 leader. Auto once per turn. When you attack with a Saiyan battle card, if that card is Universe 7 or Universe 6, draw 1 card and choose the attacking card. Then the chosen card gets plus 5,000 power for the duration of the turn. So what does the rest of this leader do? If your leader is a red U7 Vegeta and this card's in a battle, when this card's power reaches 20k or more by one of your leader's skills, which I'm pretty sure Saiyan Bond Vegeta is the only U7 leader that can actually boost this card's power, you can play up to 1 SS Kaaba Spirit Resonance from your hand with 2 markers on it. Now, SS Kaaba Spirit Resonance is the unison that came out with the, I think it was Pride of the Saiyan Warrior starter deck with the red Vegeta leader. That was also a U7 leader. It wasn't like a reboot of Saiyan Bond Vegeta or anything, but just a really good red Vegeta leader that unfortunately never saw too much time in the limelight. It was decent here and there with certain engines like Red Bardock's crew, but that's where Spirit Resonance Kaaba came out. Now, this unison was never the best unison for that deck. In fact, that deck would play the now limited to 1 Piccolo Jr. unison. So yeah, while this does support a really old leader and I find that to be cool, I don't think this is going to do anything for Saiyan Bond Vegeta, even at a local level. Like, of course this is not going to be competitive, that's like already out of the question. But even at a local level, I don't know if it's worth building Saiyan Bond Vegeta. I don't think you're going to have much success or even all that much fun, to be honest, because Kaaba Spirit Resonance is not all that exciting of a card, but it is still cool to throw some old legacy support. Yeah, we started with kind of a stinker, but there are some good cards in this video, I do promise you that. Next up, we have Frieza, Unexpected Invitation. This card's a lot cooler. So it's a 2-drop 15k critical. Auto, if your leader's backside is Sharpen Power Son Goku and your opponent has 2 or more energy, when this card's played during this turn, you can activate your Awaken even if your life is at 6 or less. So Sharpen Power Goku is a leader that says you can only play Universe 7 battle cards in your deck from the Awaken side, and it's a Warrior Universe 7 leader. And then auto on the backside, when this card attacks, draw 1, gains 5,000 power for the turn. Hitting for 20k is cool. And then auto, when this card is attacked, you may place 2 Universe 7 cards from your hand into your drop. If you do, negate the attack and the skill for duration of the turn. Now, Frieza has an ability that synergizes with that. Auto limit 1 for an energy of any color. If your leader is a Goku or Frieza with Warrior Universe 7 and you have 3 or more energy, when this card is discarded from your hand by one of your leader's skills, play this card from your drop, and this card gains blocker for the turn. So it adds some more defensive value and some way to make up advantage by pitching cards to negate with the Sharpen Power Goku. But what I find to be much more cool is the synergy with Golden Frieza Final Assailant, which this card can be played for 1 when discarded by Frieza's activate main. Discard a U7, draw 2, which is solid draw power. Also taps a battle card, which is not bad. This leader, the Golden Frieza Final Assailant leader, is a leader that has much more potential in terms of at least like local playability, maybe even like meta playability. This is a leader that I've revisited a couple times now throughout the years. It's been a little while since I have revisited, to be honest, but this leader's always had some cool stuff going for it. It doesn't have to attack, generate advantage. It can play a lot of really cool stuff in the Universe 7 archetype, like the Universe 7 Emperor that punishes your opponent for activating like any skill for the most part. So yeah, I do like this card a lot in Golden Frieza Final Assailant. I don't think it's going to do much for Sharpen Power Goku, but if you wanted to play at a local level, I mean, it's probably better than Saiyan Bond Vegeta. Then we have Raditz pulling ahead. This card's actually like really good in general. So we have a 4-drop 20k auto. When this card deals damage to your opponent, choose one of your opponent's battle cards and send it to their warp. Then your opponent sends one card from their hand to their warp. So this is actually going to resolve a lot more often than you would think, because activating the 1 for a green, if your opponent has 2 or more energy, you can just simply play this card from your hand for 1. So with all these leaders that go down to 6 life, 9 times out of 10 or 9.9 times out of 10, your opponent is just going to take whatever that 6th life damage is, because they can't block or negate, they can't super combo, and if it's 20k, they can't even just combo 5k to get out of it. So this card dealing that 6th damage to these new leaders that awaken and go down to 6 is actually super possible. Then we have activate main for a green and energy of another color. If you have 4 or more energy and you KO this card, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, KO it. Then play up to one of your red, green, multicolor Vegeta or Nappa cards with 20k power or less from your hand. So the Vegeta we have is Vegeta Saiyan Elite, 6-drop, double strike, energy exhaust, auto once per turn. When this card attacks, your opponent warps 2 cards from their hand, and then activate main for a red and a green. If your leader is a green Saiyan, deal 1 damage to your opponent. Pretty good, to be honest. Now, you're playing the Raditz down, which doesn't replace itself, but if you do pull off the damage, your opponent loses a card from hand. Then you're KOing the Raditz and a battle card your opponent controls, and then you're playing this Vegeta to make them warp 2 more cards. Now, 20k is not the most imposing of like damage dealers, but it is a pretty neat hand control loop where you're essentially kind of losing 1 card to KO one of your opponent's cards and make them warp 3 from their hand if you are able to pull off all the effects. Now, later in the game, from what I've been testing at least, Raditz is not going to be connecting for too much damage unless you invest some super combos or combo power into it. But it's still a pretty cool little engine. Then there's Nappa Break Cannon Unleash, which is another pretty decent card that used to see some play in red-green decks. We have Energy Exhaust, Deflect, Double Strike, Dual Attack, auto once per turn. If there are a total of 6 or more battle cards, an energy cost of 1 in your battle area and drop area, when this card attacks, gets plus 10k power for the turn, then choose 3 of your opponent's battle cards and KO them. So that's a pretty beefy dual attack double strike if you can manage to get all those battle cards in your drop. This was made for the Nappa archetype that revolved around Cybermen. So yeah, where I've been playing this, actually I've been trying it out a bit in Surge Broly, because it's obviously a red-green shell, and that leader facilitates that pretty well. You've also obviously got this support for Raditz, right? You can easily play this in the Raditz deck, and it gives you another good Raditz to play in that archetype. And in general, the Raditz is kind of just a good card in green. You don't have to even play either of these Nappas or Vegetas. Simply, it's a 1-drop 20k that makes your opponent worry. Like, if they don't negate the attack or somehow stop it from doing damage, they're going to start losing out on card advantage. So overall, this is a really good card in general. Even though it's not super direct support for like old Raditz or anything like that, it is kind of still in that ballpark anyway. All right, then we have Black Massan Tainted with Malice. The way this card works, I think, is really, really cool. So we have a 6-drop 25k auto for 1 energy. When this card is added from your drop to your hand by one of your leader's skills, play up to 1 copy of this card. So the leader this is meant to work with is Power Thirst Black Massan. Activate main once per turn, burst 3. Choose 1 black battle card with energy cost of 3 or more in your drop and add it to your hand, and this card gets plus 5,000 power for the duration of the turn. So you're able to play this Black Massan if you choose to pick it up with this leader. And then you have the activate main limit 1 for another energy. If your leader is Power Thirst Black Massan and you choose 1 mono black Black Massan from your drop, this card gains all the skills of the card chosen with the skill for the turn. So the prime example is going to be Dark Power Black Massan, where if your opponent plays a card via a non-keyword skill with 15,000 power or less, they're going to warp 2 cards from their hand. But another really cool one is Black Massan Splintering Mind. Now, before you go down to the character trait and read that it's a Massan, not a Black Massan, this was errated to be a Black Massan, so keep that in mind. So the cool thing about this is the auto Sparking 7. When this card attacks, if your leader is black, you may choose 2 cards in your life and send them to your warp. If you do, choose 1 card in your opponent's life and send it to the owner's warp. So this can kind of just be that game-winning button for 2 energy if your opponent's at 1 life and you're at 3 or more. So that's a pretty cool synergy there. This card, Splintering Mind, used to see play in certain Vegex decks when they were able to cheat it out, and now this leader has a way to cheat it out. This leader's also always been super interesting. It's got a lot of cool things you can do with the Awakened side. So you can pick up different black secret rares and put them in your hand. You can pick up Oceanus and just constantly reuse that card. So it almost feels like you want to play some sort of like control-oriented Power Thirst Black Massan. I've tried to mess with it a couple times in the past. It never was a deck that I was really going to take super far, but I don't know, this actually kind of has me interested in revisiting the idea, so seems like a pretty cool one for sure. And then wrapping up today's video, we have Janemba Wave Attack Start. We have a 5-drop 25k critical, activate main limit 1. If your leader is a blue Janemba, you discard this card from your hand. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Add up to 1 blue evil incarnate or demon with energy cost of 4 or less to your hand, then shuffle your deck. So the only thing unfortunate about this is that it can't search any of the boss cards. Like a lot of the Janembas are 5 and higher that you want to be searching, but you can still search a good majority of your deck. I think you can also search Saisuke or whatever the 1-drop demon is for this archetype that does a lot of your searching. You can search that as well. And then activate main limit 1. If your leader is an evil incarnate with sparking or burst, aka the supreme evil Janemba leader, and your opponent has 3 or more energy, you send this card from your drop to your warp. Your opponent adds 1 card from the top of their deck to their energy in rest mode. If they do, your opponent places 1 of their energy in their drop at the end of the turn. Now, reading this, I was thinking to myself, why would I ever want to temporarily ramp my opponent, even if it's just an energy in rest mode that they probably can't even use? But that's because there are cards back in this archetype like Phantom Strike Janemba that have an activate main that revolves around your opponent having 4 or more energy. So this is actually really cool because you pitch it, you search, and then you simply use the effect in the drop area to temporarily ramp your opponent just to turn your effects on a little bit faster. I think that's a really, really cool thing. Actually, a really cool way to throw some legacy support at some older decks. So yeah, Supreme Evil Janemba is also kind of neat because it has an ability that interrupts counterplay. If your opponent counterplays, they have to drop 3 cards from their hand. Obviously, it's only going to be good against certain strategies, but there are some counterplay heavy decks, like the Android decks, for example, run a ton of counterplays. They have Kusu, they have Android 18 Let the Battle Begin, just to name a couple. So yeah, this is pretty cool. Again, like none of these decks I don't think are going to be like super dominant at a highly competitive level. However, like stuff like this, and more so like the Black Massan, I think are actually possibly solid rogue contenders. Like the way they threw the support in these older decks, they did it in a really good way for the most part. Minus the first Kaaba we saw earlier on. That card wasn't so great. But yeah, these cards, really good. I think they're super interesting, and this is going to set a precedent for a lot of other leaders, hopefully getting some support in future sets. So anyways, guys, I want in the comments below what you think about these cards. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.